Welcome to my channel. You're here to drift, to rest, and to let your mind wander back through time, gently. Tonight, we begin a slow journey into the past. Time before smartphones, before electricity, even before flushing toilets. The world we're about to enter is one of soot and straw, bells and bread ovens, cold stone walls and wooden carts creaking over cobblestone streets. This is medieval life. Not the courtly tales of knights and fair maidens, but the steady, grinding rhythm of everyday people. The ones who woke with the sun, toiled until dusk, and prayed for clean water and a good harvest. We'll explore what it truly meant to live, work, and survive in a medieval city, not through headlines or heroics, but through the ordinary, overlooked details, the bread you'd eat, the pests you'd fight, and the strange routines that might feel utterly alien to you now. And as you relax, let your thoughts meander through the centuries. There's no need to stay alert. Let the quiet turns of history guide you gently toward sleep. We begin, as most did, in discomfort. Imagine waking up in a dim, smoky room. There is no glass in the window, only a shutter warped from years of rain. Morning light filters through cracks in the wood, casting stripes across a floor made not of tile but of hard-packed earth. Above you hangs a tangle of dried herbs and onions, meant to freshen the air and keep away mice. You lie on a mattress of straw, which rustles beneath your weight. It is lumpy. It smells faintly of mildew. And no matter how often it's changed, which is rarely, it harbors the soft sounds of tiny things moving just out of sight. Lice and fleas are a fact of life here. You might rise to the sound of church bells in the distance. Not to worship necessarily, but to mark the hours. The bells ring out across the rooftops, signaling time to those without clocks. Morning prayers, work, meals, rest. Life here is divided by bell towers. As you sit up, the cold air of the stone building touches your skin. There's no insulation, no central heat. In winter, your breath fogs. In summer, the heat clings and festers. You may be wearing the same clothes as yesterday. And the day before that, downstairs, someone is stirring a pot over a hearth. There are no modern kitchens, just fire, pots, and the smoky scent of yesterday's stew reheated again. Breakfast might be coarse bread, dark with bran, and dusted with ash. If you're lucky, there is ale to wash it down. Not because it tastes good, but because water, drawn from shallow wells, is rarely safe to drink. Now, step outside. The air smells of horses and smoke and something else harder to define. Waste, maybe? There are no sewers here. Human refuse is sometimes dumped into the street. You walk quickly, eyes scanning the windows above for anything that might come flying out. Chamber pots are emptied with little warning. The streets are narrow, muddy, and choked with activity. Merchants shout, animals bleat, a beggar holds out a hand. Behind you a cart rumbles by, its wooden wheels squealing as it rolls through muck and manure. Your feet are sore. Shoes, if you have them, are made of stiff leather, with little cushioning. If you're a tradesperson, your day is long and repetitive. Shaping iron, pounding dough, weaving cloth. Hey, the work is not glamorous, but it is survival. Lunch is another piece of bread. Perhaps some cheese, hard and sharp from age. Perhaps a pickled onion. Meat is rare. Vegetables are boiled into a bland paste. Hunger is a quiet companion. And always there's the sound. Hammers clinking on anvils. The clatter of hooves, distant hymns, the murmur of gossip, the cry of a baby, the barking of dogs. Life is not silent in the medieval city. It is loud, but never rushed. The risk of illness is everywhere. A scrape might fester. A cough might linger.
Ow.
There is little understanding of germs. The apothecary sells remedies made from herbs, honey, and animal fat. At night, the city grows quiet, but not safe. Candles glow behind shutters. The streets darken quickly. Most people retreat inside. You close the wooden bar across your door and try not to think about fire or thieves. And once again, you lie down on the same straw bed. You scratch at your skin. The lice are still there. You roll over and listen. In the distance, the bell rings again. This is the rhythm of life in a medieval city. A constant struggle, laced with simple joys, deep faith, and quiet endurance. Now, let's turn from daily life to those who tried to change it. The year is 1381. You live in England. The air is still heavy with the scent of wet fields and wood smoke. The harvest has not been kind in recent years, and prices have climbed like ivy on a crumbling wall. For decades now, the poor have bent under the weight of war, of plague, and of rising taxes. Imagine yourself a peasant, a villain, bound to your lord's land. You toil for hours in the fields, tilling soil that you will never own, harvesting grain that feeds another man's table. You pay rent in chickens and dues in sweat. You owe not only your labor, but a quiet acceptance. But that silence is beginning to fray. The Black Death, only 30 years past, has changed everything. Half of your village is gone, and those who remain have found their labor suddenly valuable. They ask for wages. They move in search of better lords. The rigid old order has cracked, and in response, the laws tighten. A new tax, the poll tax, is levied. Not on property or land, but on the body itself. A flat rate per person, regardless of income. For many, it is a final insult. And so, the murmur becomes a voice. In Kent and Essex, peasants begin to organize. They send messages from village to village, carried not by nobles, but by ploughmen, thatchers, and millers. The name most often whispered is Wat Tyler, a craftsman, a leader, a man not of birth, but of belief, the belief. And there is another, John Ball, a priest with a sharp tongue and dangerous ideas. He asks aloud in sermons. When Adam delved in Eve's span, who was then the gentleman, his meaning is clear. The social order is not divinely ordained. It is built, and it can be unbuilt. The peasants march toward London. Imagine the roads thick with bodies and banners, farmers with pitchforks, smiths with hammers, boys clutching slings. They are not polished. They are not trained. But they are many, and they are angry. They pass through towns and cities, demanding justice, tearing down manorial records, burning the evidence of their servitude. The revolt spreads like dry grass in the wind. There is violence, but also clarity. Their demands are simple: freedom from serfdom, fair rents, and the removal of corrupt officials. King Richard II is only 14, a boy on the throne, yet the rebels insist they will speak to him directly, and eventually, they do. Picture the scene. Smithfield, just outside London. Thousands of peasants gathered. Wat Tyler rides forward to speak with the king. The crowd holds its breath. What exactly happens next is still debated. Words are exchanged. Swords are drawn. Wat Tyler is struck down. Some say in a scuffle, others say by design. The king, perhaps coached or simply bold, steps forward and declares, "I am your leader now. Follow me." A pause. And then they do. The rebellion dissolves. Not in battle, but in confusion. Many return home, believing their voices were heard. But in the days that follow, the king's promises unravel. Rebels are hunted, leaders are executed. The old order reasserts itself, firm and unyielding, and yet something remains. Though the revolt is crushed, the memory of it endures. The peasants have spoken, the lords have listened. And for the first time in centuries, the notion that the common folk might shape their own fate has been spoken aloud in the open air. The rhythm of their lives was briefly broken. And now, as the dust settles over England's fields and city gates, we leave the rebels behind and journey underground into darkness and mystery. Let's descend into the silent, twisting passages beneath another medieval city. Now, let your mind settle. The noise of the market fades. Tolling bells, the chatter of merchants, even the cries of the street hawkers. Gone, you are descending. Down a narrow spiral staircase, the walls grow damp, air shifts. Cool. Still, you pass beneath the old city of Paris, the medieval Paris. Built of limestone quarried centuries earlier, here, deep below the cobblestones, lies a strange and quiet world. You've entered the catacombs, and in this moment, there are no footsteps, no flickering torchlight, only the thought of the stone itself, ancient, unmoved, and heavy. This subterranean labyrinth stretches for miles. It was not originally built for the dead. These were once quarries long before the bones arrived. The miners dug out the very stone used to build Paris above. Notre Dame, the Sorbonne, the city walls. The tunnels were vast and disordered, abandoned and largely forgotten. But the dead, they came later. In the 18th century, long after the medieval age had passed, the cemeteries of Paris had grown dangerously overcrowded. The air around less innocence. The city's largest graveyard was thick with decay. Walls collapsed. Groundwater turned foul. There were complaints, illnesses, even rumors of bread spoiled by the scent of rotting flesh. And so the city made a grim decision. They would relocate the dead. From churchyards and cemeteries, the remains of thousands, and eventually millions, were moved by night in solemn, torchlit processions, carried down into the catacombs. Stacked with care and eerie symmetry, skulls and femurs, ribs and shoulder blades, arranged in elaborate patterns. But even before this transformation, the underground had been a place of unease. During the medieval period, Paris was built on limestone. Occasionally, the earth itself would give way. Whole buildings vanished into sudden sinkholes. The catacombs had no formal map, no structure. They were dark, silent, and for many, forbidden. But over time, stories began to surface. Of missing men, lost in the darkness. Of monks and workers, never seen again. Of unexplained noises, drifting upward through stone grates. The stories weren't widespread, but they lingered. A whisper here, a warning there. Later, in more recent centuries, explorers who wandered too deep sometimes did not return. One such story tells of a camcorder recovered by urban explorers in the 1990s. Its battery long dead. The footage later viewed showed a man walking the tunnels alone, growing more frantic, running his breath echoing off the walls, then nothing. No body was ever found. But in the medieval era, long before batteries and film, the fear was simpler. The darkness was absolute. A candle flicker away from being swallowed. The cold was real, the quiet unnerving. You might imagine a stoneworker, wandering off course, thief hiding from the law, a lost pilgrim. The air grows thin in some tunnels, and in others, there's no end. Yet among all the fear and whispers, there is a strange beauty. Bones, lovingly stacked, arches and vaults, carved into silence. Faint carvings left by hands that vanished centuries ago, and a hush that feels sacred. Not frightening, but final. The catacombs beneath Paris are not just graves. They are memory turned to stone. And so we leave this silent city beneath a city, and return to the world of flickering candlelight and rustling silk. Now, rise once more. Not from a straw mattress, but from a feather-stuffed one. The chamber around you is larger, cleaner, though still cold. The walls are of stone, but hung with tapestries, faded depictions of saints, of forests, of battles long past. The air smells faintly of lavender and beeswax. You are a noblewoman. In a manor house or castle somewhere in the heart of medieval Europe, the year may be 1250, or 1350, or even 1450. Time moves slowly here, and yet your days are full. Your gown is long and layered. Linen beneath wool, perhaps trimmed with squirrel fur or silk if your family is wealthy. Your maidservant helps you dress, first with the chemise, then the kirtle, then the outer gown. Each ribbon and tie must be knotted just so. There are no zippers, no elastic. Elastic, deliberate, restrained. Breakfast is small, a slice of bread, bit of cheese, maybe a poached egg, if the household is generous. You sit at a high table, slightly elevated above your retainers and household staff. A priest may join, perhaps a steward. Conversation is polite, measured, and brief. Your duties vary by household and region, but they are many. You oversee the kitchens, you manage the servants, you inspect the linens, you may spin or weave, you may write letters, carefully, with ink and a steady hand. You likely speak Latin, or at least French. Perhaps you've read a psalter or two. Imagine the hours stretching before you. Gentle, quiet hours. Embroidery by the window. A walk through the herb garden. A visit to the chapel for prayers. The days are long, but they follow a rhythm as old as the stones in your manor. And yet, your life is not one of idleness. Childbirth is perilous. Even the highest lady fears it. You may have borne many children. Some lived, some did not. Your marriage was arranged. A political alliance, a tie between estates. If duty, not freedom. Still, there are moments of luxury. You bathe in a wooden tub filled with warm water and petals. Wine is poured. Your hair is washed with rosemary and eggs. There's music, lute or harp, soft in the background, the flicker of candlelight on silver cups, but luxury does not guarantee peace. Your husband may be away at war. You may manage the estate in his absence. You might arbitrate disputes between tenants. You might ride to neighboring manors to exchange news, always under watchful eyes. And beneath all this, a quiet pressure to appear graceful, to speak gently, to bear sons, to honor the family name. You may write in a prayer book. You may compose a small poem. You may teach your daughters how to curtsy and how to pray. The rhythm of your life is slower than the city's, but no less bound by duty. As dusk falls, the house grows dim. Tapers are lit, shadows stretch long across the flagstones. In your chamber, you are undressed layer by layer, your hair brushed 100 times, your gown hung near the coals for warmth. You slip into bed, you listen for the wind at the windows, for the soft creak of timbers, for the breath of the maid asleep by the door. Tomorrow will come again, with the same rhythm, the same silence, the same careful grace. The life of a medieval noblewoman was not merely one of ease, but of expectation. And so, the bells have faded. Walk the narrow, cobbled streets of a medieval city. Felt the scratch of straw beneath you, the sting of smoke in your eyes, the hush of cloisters and kitchens alike. You have marched beside rebels, chanting for freedom in a dusty field. You have wandered beneath stone in silence, where the catacombs whisper their forgotten names. You have stepped through the halls of a noblewoman's world, where even privilege was a kind of prison lined with lace and expectation. All of it, slow, dimly lit, and deeply human. What you've seen tonight is not history made of kings and conquests, but of daily breath and burden, the rhythm of people who endured, who lived without knowing their names, would be remembered, who simply existed. And now, as your body rests and your mind loosens its grip on the present, let that rhythm continue. So let it lull you like the chime of a chapel bell or the gentle clatter of wooden wheels on stone. The past is quiet now. Its voices are low and steady and soft. You are safe. You are still. And sleep is very near. But before the darkness takes you, one image lingers. Detail caught in the corner of your eye, a face in the crowd, a fleeting glimpse of something just beyond the edge of the firelight. A reminder that even in the deepest night, some things are best left unseen, some stories better left untold. For history is not just in the grand sweep of empires, the clash of arms, or the blaze of 1,000 candles on a king's feast night. It's also in the hushed corners, the secret glances, the lives lived in the shadows. It's in the things left unsaid, the words unspoken, the deeds buried beneath the cobblestones. As you drift to sleep, let these shadows mingle with your dreams. Let them weave tales of a time when secrets were heavy and hope was a whispered prayer. For in the quiet of the night, the past becomes alive in ways we never expected.
But
it beckons us with a finger, invites us to a dance with the unknown, reminds us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we cannot see, and the deadliest battles are those fought in the dark. Sleep well, traveler. You are safe now. For tonight at least. But remember, the past has a way of seeping into the present. And sometimes the things we cannot see are the very things that haunt us still. Welcome back to the series. Tonight we travel somewhere warm, but not always welcoming. A place of ancient rhythms, of sand and stone, of river and ritual. You are stepping into the daily world of ancient Egypt, not as a pharaoh, not even as a priest, but as one of the many who lived and toiled and endured under the desert sun. This isn't the world of polished gold or grand tombs. This is the Egypt of cracked mud brick, of calloused hands, of simple meals eaten in the fading light. Over the next 2 hours, we'll walk alongside those who built pyramids, worshipped strange gods, and dreamed under a starlit sky. You are an ordinary Egyptian, living an extraordinary life. The pharaoh's face adorns every surface, his image carved in stone, his presence felt everywhere. Every sunrise, you offer him your devotion. In return, he offers you protection. A pharaoh who demands absolute loyalty and gives lavish rewards to those who serve him well. Your life is ordered by the Nile, its annual floods shaping your days and dictating your work. The river provides life but also demands tribute, and many are drowned in its unforgiving currents. In this world, magic is real. surrounds you always, woven into the fabric of daily life. You see it in the flickering candle flame, hear it in the ibis priests chanting by the sacred lake. You feel it in the healing touch of the goddess Hathor, and you taste it in the wine offered to Ra each morning. Magic is everywhere. Memphis, the pharaoh's grand palace, echoes with music and laughter. Within its cool halls you find diversion from the desert heat. Here, the elite gather, nobles and courtiers, their lives a whirl of parties and intrigue. You might catch the eye of a powerful noble and be invited to join their circle, or perhaps find favor with the pharaoh himself. Memphis is a city of opportunity, but remember, those who rise high have far to fall. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, you make your way to the temple. Its towering columns and sacred bulls await your arrival. Inside, the scent of incense mingles with the murmur of prayers. Here, amidst the flickering torchlight and the shadows cast by hieroglyphic tales, you seek solace and connection. As the temple bells toll, you raise your voice in unison with other worshippers, singing hymns to gods, both ancient and new. Amidst the timeless rituals, there's a comforting sense of belonging. You are part of something bigger than yourself, a community bound by faith and tradition. But in the stillness of the night, when the temple is cloaked in darkness, secrets stir. The priests whisper of a hidden chamber beneath the temple, a place where forbidden knowledge sleeps. They speak in hushed tones of an entrance concealed behind the altar of Ra, an entrance leading to a realm where the dead walk and the veil between worlds is at its thinnest. The first sound is the river, gentle, steady, constant. The Nile flows just beyond the edge of your home. Not grand, not silent, but wide and brown and filled with life. A lifeline in the middle of a desert. You sleep on the roof. Inside, it's too hot. The air down there is thick and unmoving. So like most, you rest beneath the open sky, where cool breezes float over the flat rooftops in the night. Now, the sky begins to pale. Rosy streaks spread across the horizon. You blink awake and scratch at your skin. The sand fleas never really sleep. Their tiny bites are just part of life. Always have been. You live in a house of mud brick, 1 or 2 rooms at most. The walls are warm, sun-baked, and crumbly at the corners. Chickens cluck nearby. A goat bleats. Insects buzz softly in the reeds. There is no privacy. No locks. No walls too thick to hear through. Your life is shared, with family, with neighbors, with animals, with the heat. Breakfast is simple. A piece of bread, coarsely ground, tough on the teeth. Some dried dates, perhaps. If you're lucky, a smear of goat cheese. There is beer, thin, grainy, fermented. Children drink it too. Water is precious and sometimes unsafe. The beer, at least, has been boiled. And then you go to work. If you are a man, it may be the fields planting barley or flax, waist deep in mud, swatting at flies. Or it might be the quarries, cutting stone under the white-hot sun. Your skin is burned, your hands calloused. The tools are simple, the labor is endless. If you are a woman, you might grind grain by hand, your knees pressed into the earth. Or fetch water from the river, balancing jars on your head. You might weave linen, or help with baking, might care for small children. Yours or someone else's. Everyone contributes, and always the heat. Rises by mid-morning and lingers like a weight. The sun is merciless. Shade is a privilege. Even the breeze feels warm. You wipe your face with the edge of your linen wrap, coarse and worn thin. Still there's beauty, the scent of crushed herbs, the flash of a bird's wings, the splash of children playing at the river's edge, the gleam of painted amulets hung from doorways. The gods are everywhere. Small statues on household altars, offerings at crossroads, prayers whispered over the sick. You don't read or write, but you know their names. Isis, Osiris, Horus, Thoth. They are as constant as the river. Lunch, if you can call it that, is usually more bread. Perhaps a boiled onion, perhaps a handful of lentils. Protein is rare. Fish, sometimes, if the catch was good. Meat, almost never. There is no clock. The sun is your timekeeper. You work until it dips again behind the palms, and the sky turns from gold to violet. Evening brings a hush. Fires are lit. The smell of smoke and baking flatbread fills the alleys. People sit on the ground, legs folded beneath them, telling stories, some true, some not. You return to the rooftop. The stars are brilliant, sharp and clear, scattered across the black. The moon glows. A breeze dances across your skin. You are tired, deeply so. Not from a single day, but from every day. This is not a world of splendor. It's not for most. But it is steady, predictable, ordered. And you are a part of that order. One voice among millions whispering across time. And as that whisper fades, we turn to another voice. A man who dared to change everything. Pharaoh who rewrote the rules of gods and kings. Now, let the dust of the village settle. Lift your gaze to the horizon. You're about to meet a man who refused to follow the rhythm. Pharaoh who shifted the weight of centuries and paid the price for it. His name was Akhenaten. Before he was Akhenaten, he was Amenhotep IV, born into the 18th dynasty, a long and powerful lineage of Egyptian kings. He inherited temples that sang praises to hundreds of gods. Gods with falcon heads, crocodile snouts, and curling horns. Gods that filled the walls of tombs, the ceilings of palaces, and the hearts of priests. But Amenhotep, Akhenaten, saw something different. He saw the sun, not just as a god among many, but as the only god. A glowing, radiant disk. The Atone, it was bold, it was radical, and for a while it was real. Imagine the court used to ceremony and careful hierarchy, suddenly shifting. The great temples of Ammon falling quiet. The statues of other gods taken down, their names chipped away from stone. In place of hidden sanctuaries, Akhenaten built open-air temples, exposed to the sunlight. No thick walls, no shadows, sky and sun and stone. He changed everything, even the art. For centuries, Egyptian pharaohs were portrayed as divine, stiff, muscular, timeless. But Akhenaten's portraits were different. Elongated skull, narrow shoulders, soft belly. He was shown not in triumph, but in tenderness, kissing his daughters, holding his wife Nefertiti close. It was as if he had peeled back the formality of kingship and revealed something deeply personal. And yet, for all this softness, his reforms were absolute. He moved the capital from Thebes to a brand new city called Akhetaten, now known as Amarna. Built from scratch, it rose from the desert in just a few years. Palaces, courtyards, temples, all glowing under the Aten's gaze. But not everyone was pleased. The priesthood, especially those of Amen, lost power. The old religious system, which had kept society in balance, was dismantled. For the common people, the rituals they had known for generations were gone. Whispers began. Akhenaten was rarely seen outside his city. His isolation grew. He focused only on the Aten. Even during military threats, he seemed detached, his gaze fixed upward. And then, he vanished. We don't know exactly how he died. Some say illness, some say rebellion. But when he was gone, so too was his vision. A son, a young boy named Tutankhaten, would reverse it all. He would restore the old gods, and change his name to Tutankhamen. And Akhenaten, his city was abandoned, his monuments defaced, his name nearly erased from the king lists, as if Egypt itself wanted to forget. But still, he lingers. A strange, distant figure, both radical and reverent. He tried to realign a civilization toward the light, and perhaps flew too close. Now, let's leave Akhenaten behind. Turn our gaze beneath the ground to what still lies hidden, beneath temple walls, beneath shifting sands, beneath centuries of silence. Now, slow your thoughts. Let the glare of the sun fade, the sound of chisel and chant fall quiet. We descend once more not into water, nor into fire, but into sand. It drifts softly, piles gently, and over time, it hides. Beneath Egypt's golden dunes and cracked earth, there lie temples, forgotten sanctuaries, walls carved by hands long vanished, pillars that once held up the prayers of thousands, covered now by wind and time and silence. Imagine walking through the desert. The ground beneath your feet is firm but dry. The horizon shimmers in the heat. You pass a low rise, just another ripple in the landscape. But beneath it, a doorway waits. A roofed hall. A row of columns patiently holding up the weight of centuries. You would never know, not unless the wind uncovered it. Just so. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeologists uncovered more than they expected. Entire temples hidden beneath farms, beneath modern cities, even beneath the shifting banks of the Nile. One of the most striking stories is that of Abydos. For centuries, it was known as a holy site linked to the god Osiris, lord of the afterlife. Pilgrims traveled there to offer prayers, to play stele, to be near what they believed was a gate to the world beyond. But beneath its well-known temple, another was found. Buried beneath layers of sand, rock, and ruins was the Osirian. A deep, dark hall, unlike anything above it. Massive granite blocks, water-filled trenches, a sense of sacred weight, as if the place itself were waiting. No inscription told its purpose. No clear map led to it. And even today, no one is entirely sure why it was built. Then there is Tanis, once a thriving city in the north. Its name almost forgotten until chance led explorers there. Sand and mud had reclaimed its streets. But beneath the surface, statues, obelisks, tombs, untouched by looters, sarcophagi of kings. Jewelry still gleaming, hieroglyphs still sharp, and further south, in the deep, dry heart of Nubia, temples had to be saved from the rising waters of modern dams. The most famous is Abu Simbel, cut from the cliffside by Ramses II. When modern construction threatened to submerge it forever, a team of engineers and archaeologists moved the entire mountain, stone by stone, into the safety of higher ground. It was not just history being saved, but memory, because Egypt was always more than its surface. Beneath the homes and markets, beneath the footprints of tourists, lie cities within cities, temples beneath temples, stories beneath stories. Even in Alexandria, where the modern city hums with cars and lights, the sea has not forgotten. Divers have found statues, pillars, sphinxes, lying peacefully in the waters just off the coast. Evidence of temples swallowed by earthquakes and time. There is something calming about this. That even when forgotten, these places endure. That the rhythm of stone, the curve of a pillar, the shape of a god's face, all of it sleeps under the earth, beneath centuries of silence and waits. Without complaint, now let's rise again. Not to sand, but to incense. Not to stone, but to scrolls. The final chapter in our journey tonight takes us into the temples of Thebes, where the priests whispered secrets and moved in silence, cloaked in ritual and purpose. The desert fades, the sand settles, and in its place, a city of quiet corridors, of cool shadowed halls, of echoing footsteps on polished stone. Welcome to Thebes, not the city of merchants or masons, but of priests. You stand now before the great temple of Ammon at Karnak, a place of columns so tall they swallow the sky, walls so thick they seem to hum with the weight of centuries. The scent in the air is sweet. Frankincense, myrrh, the crushed petals of sacred blue lotus. Inside, it is still. You're always still. You are a temple priest, one of hundreds. You are not royal. You do not rule. But you hold a quiet kind of power. Through ritual, through writing, through knowledge passed from one scribe's hand to the next. Your day begins before sunrise. You wake in a modest home, not far from the temple walls. You bathe thoroughly, in silence, with care. Purity is essential. You must be clean, both in body and spirit, before you may step into the sacred spaces. The temple itself is not open to all. It is a place apart. Visitors rarely see past the first court. Beyond that, deeper into the halls, only the priests may go. You walk slowly, barefoot, across flagstones worn smooth by generations. Light filters in, only where allowed. Narrow shafts from above, shafts that fall like divine fingers onto the altars. Your duties vary. Some days, you tend to statues, not just dusting. You clothe them, speak to them. The gods are not distant. They dwell here. Your images are not symbolic. They are alive in stone and gold. Every act of care is sacred. You offer food, bread, meat, fruit. Even if the god does not eat, you burn incense. You You chant prayers and tones passed down word for word. Your voice must not rise. It must flow. Other days, you read from scrolls, sacred texts written in neat columns, held in linen-wrapped bundles. You study rituals, star charts, medical treatises, hymns to the sun and to the dead. You may teach the younger acolytes, or copy glyphs by candlelight, and always there are the processions. On festival days, the god leaves the temple, carried in a ceremonial boat hidden behind curtains of gold. The people line the streets. Music swells. Offerings are made, but you walk in silence, barefoot, your eyes lowered. The public sees a celebration, you see continuity. Because your role is not just to serve, it is to preserve, to keep the rhythm alive, to ensure the balance. Matt between the seen and unseen, between gods and men. But there is more. In the shadowed archives of the temple, secrets are kept. History is not shared with the outside world. Names of kings, counts of battles, knowledge of stars and seasons. The priests of Thebes do not merely chant, they remember. In time you may rise. From junior priest to overseer, from overseer to high priest, a man whose influence might rival the pharaoh's. But such power is quiet, controlled, never shouted. Even in your final years, you rise before the sun. You whisper prayers. You walk slowly through columns carved with stories older than memory. And when you pass, another will take your place. The gods do not hurry. Neither do their servants. Now, the torches have dimmed. The scrolls are rolled. The temple gates are closed. And your journey, through heat and stone, through sand and silence, draws to a close. The wind across the Nile has quieted. The temple bells have gone still. The last torch flickers. And behind you, the door to the past closes gently. It's like a curtain of woven reeds swaying in the night. You have walked the dusty paths of a village by the river, felt the warmth of sun-baked bricks, watched grain crushed by hand. You've seen the calloused hands that shaped pyramids. The weathered faces of those who never knew their names would echo across time. You have stood beside a pharaoh, one who defied tradition, who turned his eyes to the sun and asked the people to follow. You've witnessed the silence of lost temples buried beneath sand, waiting without complaint for the day they'd see light again. And you've wandered through the sacred hush of Karnak, where incense curled into the air and priests moved like shadows across polished stone. All of it, still here, beneath the sand within the walls along the river's edge. It wasn't gold or glory that shaped this civilization. It was the rhythm, the repetition, the quiet persistence of daily life. And now, as you lie still, far from that world, your breath matching the flow of the river, know that history does not sleep. It simply waits, softly, patiently, until we return to listen again. So rest now. Let the stars over the Nile drift into your dreams. Let the stone halls fade into the distance. Let the ancient dust settle and sleep deeply. Good night.